Coming up on Life on Air, veteran TV host Todd Newton talks about what it was like to be part of the explosion at E! Entertainment in the mid-1990s.
You know, we were a bunch of people in our 20s and 30s who loved being in Hollywood, who hung out together, but we all brought a little something different to the table.
Plus, what legendary game show host became his personal mentor.
But Bob always said, Todd, never forget, each contestant brings something new to the table.
Life on Air starts right now. Hey there, and welcome to the first ever Life on Air podcast. My name is Tim Tialdo, and this is the podcast dedicated to the TV hosting industry. Now, my job is to connect you with the industry, help you learn from the experts, and of course, help you become the best TV personality you can possibly be. Now, we've got an awesome podcast ahead, as I said, with Todd Newton. But first, I want to catch you up on a few things that I have going on. In just a few weeks, I'm going to be releasing my new book, The TV Host Crash Course. If you want to find out more about that, you need to go to my website, timtialdo.com, or you can go to my fan page on Facebook. That's facebook.com/TimTialdo fan page, and I'll be happy to keep you updated with my blog posts, and you're welcome to subscribe to my RSS feed. You know, a few years ago while I was working on a lifestyle show in St. Louis, I got word from a good friend of mine in the hosting industry that game show host Todd Newton was going to be in town speaking at his alma mater, Merrimack Community College. And I'd really always been a big fan of Todd's back when he was on E! Because he got to do the coolest things on the planet. I mean, you know, I was so jealous of this guy because he was on the red carpet with Hollywood A-listers, and he also just got to host some fun, entertaining programs. And he was really one of those people that started to shape my vision of the type of the host that I wanted to become. And so I went to see Todd that weekend at the event and really got the privilege to know and befriend him. And today he is an Emmy-nominated game show host. He has hosted Whammy, Hollywood Showdown, Instant Millionaire, The Price is Right Live in Vegas at Bally's, and then his current big hit show is Family Game Night. He is a veteran of the industry and a wealth of knowledge, and I'd like to welcome Todd Newton to the podcast. Todd, what's up, my friend?
Tim, thank you very much, man. That was a very cool intro. I appreciate that. It's good to be here with you.
I know we've got a lot of people here today who are really excited just to kind of hear about your background because you've had such an exciting and, you know, lucrative and fun career. And I just kind of want to take a trip back in time, if you don't mind. You know, you started, we both grew up in St. Louis, and you started as a radio DJ here, went by the call sign Rick Idle. Talk about how you went from a radio DJ in St. Louis to TV hosting.
Well, you know, it's funny because I just watched this wonderful documentary called Being Elmo, and it's a documentary on puppeteer Kevin Clash, who gave the world famous Muppet Elmo a voice and a personality and a life. And you know, as a father of two kids, Elmo was years ago, obviously, a big part of their childhood. So I was interested in this documentary, and as I was watching it, I realized the real reason I was interested was because my first foray into the world of television was there in St. Louis on a local kids show called Gator Tales, and he asked me to come in and just kind of be the puppeteer that didn't speak. You know, I was a character called Mr. Frog, and all I had to do was just make sure that his head was turning, and he would nod his head in agreement and open his mouth and a smile, and just kind of had a little bit of life on this kid's puppet show once or twice. And that's where I first was introduced to the lights, the cameras, and the action of television. I was only 16 years old at the time. And then, as you said, I was an intern at a radio station called KYNC, from 1 to 3 in the morning, a couple days a week. That led to another internship at a top 40 radio station in St. Louis called Hot 97, and I was an intern from midnight to 6, Monday through Friday, just running the control board there, not getting the chance to speak or to talk on the request lines or do anything that DJs love to do. But it just so happens a St. Louis winter got to the overnight person, and they were unable to show up, and I got to kind of step in and pop that microphone on, and the rest, as they say, is history. It was a lot of fun, and it led to some local television work on a station called KPLR TV, Channel 11 there in St. Louis, and Channel 11 sent me to Los Angeles to do some interviews with stars that had sitcoms on their network at the time, and just in one of the craziest stories, and no matter how many times I tell this story, it just seems bizarre to me and so rare. But I walked across the street from the hotel to the offices of MTV. They were in Universal City at the time. They're in the Valley. And I asked the receptionist who I speak to about becoming a VJ, and she picked up the phone and she called a gentleman by the name of Kurt Sharp. And Kurt was the head of talent at MTV at the time. And he took me in his office, and we talked, and he watched my videotape of the local work I had done, referred me to an agent who made the time to see me later that afternoon, and she signed me, and 6 months later I was auditioning and getting a job at E! Entertainment. So I love it, and that story is obviously in the book. It's truly one of those Hollywood tales.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's jealous that you walked in one day and had a meeting with the right person and they got an agent and you were ready to go.
Well, I think it's one of the things I talk about in my lectures, Tim, and my seminars, and I think certainly when you saw it in St. Louis and in the ones that I give currently, my current seminar is called I Want, I Will, I Win, and I touch on this, but it wasn't so much that I had any amount of talent that tens of thousands of other men and women that want to be hosts certainly possess. It wasn't that I knew anyone spectacular that opened some doors for me that otherwise wouldn't have been opened. It was the fact that I just wouldn't take no for an answer, and it was the fact that on that day I had the foresight and the vision to walk across the street to MTV and, pardon my language, had the balls to ask the receptionist who I would speak to about making this dream of mine come true. And part of that was a little bit of ignorance and a little bit of inexperience and being green and not knowing at the time that that's not how things are done. But I think had I had any experience, I would have probably not made that decision because I would have realized that things work differently and there's a protocol to this type of thing and scheduling this type of meeting. But listen, it's my story, and it's one that I'm very proud of, and it doesn't necessarily matter what you look like or what kind of talent you possess or what kind of experience you have under your belt. It's just that continual moving forward, that constant creeping up on your goal and making your vision a reality that matters. And every little step, no matter how big or how small, gets you that much closer to where you want to be.
Yeah, and some great advice. I definitely couldn't agree more. Now, you said 6 months later you got the E! Job, and I know a lot of people, including myself, in our teenage years and maybe even in our 20s, we were watching E! going, wow, that would be an awesome job to have. And now there's a lot of people, they watch Seacrest and the Steve Kometkos and the Todd Newtons on E! and they go, God, I'd love to do that one day. So kind of tell me a little bit about your time at E! I think you spent about a decade there. You did some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I did 12 or 13 years at E! and God, I just absolutely loved it. And I got there right at the perfect time. I mean, when I joined E! there were only 5 or 6 hosts on the roster. Everything that we did on the network was produced in-house. Now obviously a lot of stuff is produced out of house, and there are a lot more cooks in the kitchen. But back in the early 90s, when it was just me and Steve Kometko and John Henson on Talk Soup, Greg Kinnear had just left, AJ Benza, Downtown Julie Brown. We were a pretty tight group. Eleanor Mondale, who just recently passed away and was such a dear friend and a great host. We were a bunch of people in our 20s and 30s who loved being in Hollywood, who hung out together. Well, Kometko was certainly not in his 30s, but he wouldn't mind me saying that. But we all brought a little something different to the table. John Henson, who was hosting Talk Soup at the time, brought the New York stand-up comic to it. AJ Benza brought the New York tough guy gossip columnist to it. Downtown Julie Brown brought the Wabba Wabba MTV style to it, to the gossip show. Eleanor Mondale was this 6 foot tall, blonde, sexy host who knew everybody because of her father being Walter Mondale and her association with Washington D.C. And then Joan Rivers was introduced to the mix. And I mean, I remember when I did my first Academy Awards, it was us and Entertainment Tonight and maybe ABC and CNN. And that was it. That was the red carpet. And stars would stop and talk for as long as we wanted to chat. And it was the coolest thing ever. And it stayed like that for 4 or 5 years until every major network started catching on that, hey, people like seeing the stars arrive. They think this is pretty cool. And I remember being there the day that Joan Rivers asked one of the stars who they were wearing for the very first time. And she did it basically out of a lack of anything else to ask. I mean, the interview had gone on maybe slightly too long. The star had no intention of leaving, and so Joan had nothing else to ask except, who made your dress? And now it's the cliche question that's asked by everybody on the red carpet. And I got to host everything on that network. I got to host the live events, obviously. I got to host Talk Soup for 6 or 8 months after Johnny left. And I got to host the news after that, after Steve left. And, just travel the world hosting Wild On with Brooke Burke. And it was just an incredible experience. And I think my favorite thing about E, and the thing that I'm so grateful for and most grateful for, was the fact that nobody ever said, hey, do it this way. They just kind of let you go out and develop your own personality and your own style. And as hosts, that's what we do. I mean, personally, I never wanted to be an actor, but I knew I always wanted to be on TV. So I had to perfect this hosting thing one way or the other. And it allowed me to realize that I love entertainment news. I would never want to be a news anchor. Hard news would never interest me. But just going out and being myself and doing cool things and speaking to cool people was where I wanted my career to go.
This is some awesome stuff. Let's talk more about that stuff here in just a minute. But when we come back, we're going to talk more with Todd about game show hosting and also learn about his new double career as a life coach and hypnotist. You definitely want to hear about this. You're listening to Life on Air.
Hey, this is Todd Newton, host of Family Game Night, and you, my friend, are listening to the #1 podcast for the TV hosting industry, Life on Air with Tim Tialdo. And don't forget, check out my new book. It's called Life in the Bonus Round, the bells and whistles of an open-minded and big-mouth game show host on Amazon.com. You can also find out more about me at ToddNewtonOnline.com.
Back with Emmy-nominated game show host Todd Newton. And Todd, I know there's a ton of people listening who think being a game show host would be such an incredible job. I'm sure you felt that way as well. But they really have no idea where to even start. So maybe can you share with me, one, how you got into game show hosting, and two, what are the particular skills that make a good game show host?
Well, sure. I remember I was in Spain. So I only called in every couple of days from Spain to check my voicemails, and I had a call from my agent who said, listen, there's this game show that I really think you should audition for. It'd be something new for you, and I think it'd be right. And the producer is a gentleman by the name of Sandy Stewart, who has a long legacy in the world of game shows. His father was the original creator of The Price is Right, and Sandy created Password and $25,000 Pyramid and several other legendary game shows. And she said, I know you're over in Spain, but I think it might be worth coming back a day or two early to go on this audition. So I did. I changed my flight, and I came back to Los Angeles and went on the audition. And it was for a show called Hollywood Showdown, which was just a really cool pop culture trivia show in 1998. I instantly connected with Sandy. He is a very dear friend and a mentor, and at the time was just somebody that I had an instant respect for, and ended up getting the job, thankfully. And Hollywood Showdown aired for 2 seasons on Game Show Network, and instantly I fell in love with game shows. I realized right away that this is really where I felt the most comfortable in the world of hosting. And I think what I love most about hosting game shows, even to this day, is sharing that moment with a contestant when they win a life-changing sum of money or a prize that they really need. And Tim, we live in a world now where when we turn on the television, if we don't see somebody playing for $1 million, we're really not that impressed. I mean, $1 million doesn't even mean that much to television viewers anymore, which is sad because, I've hosted game shows where we've given away $1 million, and that certainly is an incredible amount. So my manager keeps a tally of how much I've given away, and currently I've given away over $28 million in cash and prizes in my career, which is really cool. But even when you give, or you're not giving, they're earning it, obviously. When a contestant is awarded $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, a lot of times that money is money that is greatly needed to pay off debt, to send a child to college, to get a much-needed car repair done. so that they can continue working. And I see that, I feel that. I'm there, and I talk to them during the commercial breaks, and I see their lips quivering or the beads of sweat forming on their brow, or I can feel the nervous energy. I know how much they need and want this money. So when I'm able to award them $25,000, to me, that's just as good as giving them $10 million. And I love it. I love being the guy standing next to these people when they win that money. And I think to be a good game show host, you have to really appreciate that moment. And you have to realize that you may be on TV every single day, but this person, for them, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And that's another thing I write about in the book. This is something that we do all the time, but for them, it's something they've wanted to do for years and years and years, and probably will never get to do again. So you really have to savor this moment through their eyes and appreciate it the way they're appreciating it in order to maximize the moment. And that's all a game show is. A game show is a series of moments. It's one piece of a game leading to another piece of a game, and you just have to be the guy or the gal that maximizes each and every one of those moments. And to be a good game show host, you really have to care. You can't just show up, clock in, clock out, go home, and forget about it. You really have to care. And I just did an interview last night. Someone asked for the 5 qualities of a good game show host, and one of the qualities I stated was knowing the game. You have to know the game better than anyone else in order to predict all the possible outcomes, to build the drama, to maximize the moments, and to make it as enjoyable for that contestant as possible. You also have to treat the contestants as guests in your home. Like I said, this may be their only chance to be on television in their entire lives. So you want to make them as comfortable as possible, and you want to make them enjoy it as much as possible. And also another thing I said is you have to really let the viewers at home know how much you appreciate them being there, especially in a show like Family Game Night or Whammy. Those are such high energy shows. The music is loud. The audience is constantly screaming. It's very easy to get caught up in what's going on that stage. But every now and then you have to stop and you have to look at the television camera and you have to connect with the viewer, and you have to thank them for making us a part of their day. I mean, especially in this day and age of cable television and online entertainment, people have so many choices when it comes to what to watch. The fact that they've taken time out of their day or night to watch you just means the world to me and to the people that I work with. So you got to connect with the viewer. And the one most important thing about being a good game show host, and this is, Bob Barker is somebody who took a lot of time over many years to teach me how to do this right, and I look up to him and respect him immensely. But Bob always said, Todd, never forget that each contestant brings something new to the table. And as long as you can get that contestant to shine, you'll have a great show. And each contestant is unique. Every person on this planet is unique. So to allow that person to really be who they are, whether they're a mailman from Denver, Colorado, a housewife from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or a CEO from New York City, they all bring something different to the table. And it's your duty as the host to bring as much out of them as you possibly can, not only for the sake of the game, but also for the entertainment of the viewer at home. So those are the qualities. Just have fun, make your contestants comfortable, make them feel appreciated, get as much out of them as you possibly can, and just really maximize every single moment of the show.
Wow, some amazing insight there, and I love the advice that Bob Barker gave you. That's definitely some good advice for everybody to take. Now, you have parlayed your career into, I guess a side career, or even you could call your main career. You are now they call you America's Life Coach, and you're a hypnotist. You have a show called Hypnotastic. Talk a little bit about how you got into all that.
Yeah, well, it's funny because for many years I've been asked to be the guest speaker at events around the globe, actually. And it started very early in my time at E. And I never really knew what to talk about. I'd show up and they'd say, okay, you've got 45 minutes. And I'd say, okay. And I'd go out and just tell funny stories or whatever. But then I started realizing, and it was actually in Denver, when I thought to myself, I have the gift of hundreds of people's undivided attention here for 45 or 60 minutes. Let me do something productive with it. So I just kind of started sharing the philosophies that I possess that have been beneficial to me in my career. I in no way tell people, do what I do because it'll get you wherever you want to go. What I say is, this is what I've done that's got me here, and these are the things that I feel comfortable with. So I started piecing together just a little keynote presentation, and I guess in the late 90s, early 2000s, it started developing into something, and I saw it taking on a life of its own. And so, like I do in every aspect of my career, I sought out a mentor, somebody who was doing what I wanted to be doing and doing it very well. And obviously in the world of motivational speaking, that person is Tony Robbins. And I started studying Tony, watching Tony. I went to a few of Tony's seminars, met him a couple of times. And I just kind of watched his mannerisms and his work ethics and what he did before a presentation and what he did after a presentation, things of that nature. I realized that Tony was obviously a coach. So in order to add credibility to my presentations, I too studied coaching. Thanks to my television exposure, got a lot of great clients right off the bat. But I don't do a lot of one-on-one coaching anymore. I much prefer creating and producing my own seminars where I can hopefully benefit hundreds of people at a time as opposed to just one person at a time. Just in the same way that I wanted to be the best speaker and coach I could be, I also noticed that Tony utilizes conversational hypnosis very well in his presentations, and that's why he's so very effective. So I studied conversational hypnosis and with 2 or 3 really wonderful teachers, and that led me to hypnotherapy, and I just wanted to learn more about the aspects of the mind, and hypnotherapy was really fascinating to me. And when I was working with one client, I remember sitting there after about 75 minutes in this session, thinking to myself, "Wow, 75, 90 minutes. That's how long a Las Vegas show was." And I thought, hey, this is I could take what I know here and combine that with what I know about performing in Vegas and on stages in casinos across the country, and I could make a hypnosis show out of this. So again, I sought out a mentor, and one of my very good friends is a very successful Las Vegas hypnotist, Anthony Cools, and I spoke with him about it, and then I just started studying the history of stage hypnotism, and I found that I was really intrigued by the European style. So I found a mentor in London, a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Chase, who's billed as Britain's greatest hypnotist. I paid him a ton of money to let me come over and live with him for a few weeks and to teach me everything he knew, or at least what I believed to be everything he knew about creating and being a great stage hypnotist, creating a great stage hypnosis show. And we've done that, and I incorporate cabaret dancers into my show, and we can do it on a big scale or a small scale, and it's a lot of fun, and we do we're up to about 30 dates a year, and it's not necessarily climbing steps on the ladder. It's just always keeping my eyes open and asking myself, what more can I do with this? Where can I take this now? And it keeps me from moving horizontal, moving side to side, moving horizontally. It keeps me from becoming stagnant, and keeps everything fresh and exciting for me.
Well, you're doing some great things. I've had a chance to experience not only your speeches firsthand, but also your hypnotastic show, and you're just doing awesome things, and you're being innovative and creative, and that's one of the things that I try and teach, a lot of the hosts that are trying to come up through the ranks, is that you have to create your own future, and it's not just going to happen for you. You have to be out there doing those things. And quickly, before we finish up here, and I ask this of everybody because I think, I always get a different answer, is for those people who are wanting to be hosts, or maybe they're early on in their hosting career and they're wanting to kind of take that next step and move up, what kind of advice do you have for somebody in the hosting industry just wanting to kind of move forward?
Well, I think that the fact that they want to move forward is the key ingredient. And we've all heard the old saying, successful people are really nothing more than the people that held on a little longer than everyone else. And listen, Tim, I'll be honest, you and I are friends now, and just in the past week, I've a lot of great bookings have come my way with the hypnosis show, and some, I booked some great speeches. But also in the same week, I've had projects canceled. I've had bookers or producers that I'm working with go in different directions. You win some, and you don't win some. I never say you lose anything, but you're never going to get every single gig that you go out for. And I think people need to learn to be a little bulletproof. I get a lot of people saying, oh, I just can't stand the rejection. And I've never felt the rejection. I mean, the percentage of jobs that I've gotten compared to the amount of auditions I've been on is very, very small. But it's like that for everyone. And I think you just need to hang on. You need to keep your eyes open and create opportunities for yourself. I have a sign on my refrigerator at home that says, "Stop waiting and start creating." And this is something that I really try and live by. I mean, if I waited for the phone to ring for auditions, I'd be broke. Because it just doesn't work that way. And we live in a country where the marketplace of ideas allows us to go out and explore and pursue our passions. And we also live in the age of the internet, where we can connect with like-minded people and network with people all over the world. And we have to take advantage of that. And that's something I try and teach my children, and something I try and share with colleagues and people that are earlier in their careers than I am. And it's something that I've learned from people like Sandy Stewart and Bob Barker. They both, just because you have one show on the air doesn't mean you don't try and go out and create another one. Or just because you're retired doesn't mean you can't write your autobiography like Bob did. Bob goes out and does speaking engagements and works for his animal charities. So it's very important to grow as many arms as you can. Be an entertainment octopus and just grab every single thing that comes your way and maximize it. And when something falls through the cracks, you say, what can I learn from this? And you dust yourself off and just keep moving forward.
Well, Todd, man, you are incredible, and I really appreciate the time that you spent with us today. You've taken a trip down memory lane. You've given us some insight, some advice, and some knowledge. So I just want to tell you thank you so much. It's really been a great pleasure to get you online here with us today.
Oh, man, it's always a pleasure, Tim, to speak with you, and good luck to everybody listening. And, as long as you don't ever steal a job from me, I'll be here to help you in any way I can, folks. Any way I can.
All right. Don't forget to check out Todd's book later this summer, and you can find out more about Todd at toddnewtononline.com. And you can also find more about the TV hosting industry on my webpage, timtialdo.com. And until next time, remember, the best way to predict your future is to create it. Now go do it.